Hello and welcome. Hi, this is Peter, and as you have noticed, this is a different topic than what I had covered last time, because this is a new series on the Tekken fundamentals and mechanics of the game. And these fundamentals and mechanics really are the core, the spine, the meat and potatoes, or whatever you want to call it in Tekken. Because these fundamentals that I'm going to be going over are going to dictate how you're going to be playing your character, because they lay the foundation, the groundwork for all of the characters, pretty much, quote unquote. Anyhow, if you're going to be playing multiple characters or you're just going to be playing one character, how strong your fundamentals and mechanics are really is going to quicken your rise to ascension to becoming a better player. And with that out of the way, let's move on to the introduction of our first topic. So the topic that we're covering today is movement, as you have figured out from the title. And it is one of the most important topics, if not the most important topic to cover. It is a very simple aspect to understand and begin to utilize at a beginner level, yet surprisingly hard and difficult to master. And dare I say that one never really truly masters this, because there's always going to be something to improve on, whether it's like a small nuance or something new that you just, kind of discovered based on the character you're fighting. But anyhow, movement in Tekken is extremely important, because it does many things. 3 things actually. It, 1, makes you a harder target to hit. A moving target is always going to be harder to hit than a stationary target. If you look at the clip, you know what, this actually works, this finger works. If you look at the clip here I have, you'll notice with just movement, the character on our left, Kazumi, is able to avoid a lot of the incoming damage simply just from moving. She's with a combination of blocking and moving, not complicated movements, just movements, we're able to avoid a lot of the incoming damage and make it frustrating for our opponent to deal with, because we're just kind of squirming around, not letting them get a clean hit anywhere. 2, with movement, and this one ties to the first topic of being harder to hit, movement will relieve pressure where blocking won't. If you look at this clip here, yes, I got the right finger. If you look at this clip here, where we're just blocking, just holding back, just blocking, you'll see that we're not really relieving pressure. We're still in block stun, our opponent's still attacking us, and we're still in the same range more or less of the opponent. And the third topic, and this ties back to the first one again about being harder to hit. Point 3, movement will also allow you to create openings and opportunities for you to hit your opponent or retaliate on them when they miss. So if you see here, Kazumi is able to create an opening, an opportunity to hit Jin. And I don't want to dive too deep into this topic, but I will be covering it in more in depth in the next video. As many of you know, Tekken is a 3D fighting game, but we are going to be covering the 2D aspects of the game first, so as to make it more digestible and easy to understand the movements. First, we're going to be covering the X and Y axis, X and Y, which is moving forwards, backwards, and up and down. Well, probably not covering down, because you don't move down, you just kind of crouch. But anyways, we're going to be covering X first. So if we hold back, we do 2 things. We block and we move backwards. And this is by far one of the safest types of movements in the game, because as you can see here in this example, we are able to block all high attacks and all mid attacks while moving backwards. But there is one inherent big weakness to this, and I'm sure you can see it, and it's because we're moving slow as fuck. And because we're moving slow as fuck, we allow ourselves to continue to be pressured by the opponent, where you're able to gain no breathing room and create no space between ourselves and our opponent. So to combat this, we can move a little quicker backwards by backdashing, and that's performed by pressing back twice in succinct motion and doing it quickly. This is crucial because, as you can see in this example, how quickly we're able to move backwards with backdashing versus how we were moving previously with just holding back. And if you look at this example of backdashing, it's nothing fancy, remember, just backdashing. We're able to create some space between ourselves and our opponent, and when the opponent misses, we can take the opportunity to capitalize on that and kind of really punish them for this. So this is the importance of moving backwards. There is a time and place to hold back, which is when you don't want to be moving too far back, and when you want to create space, you press back to create some space. Now, the next direction on the x-axis that we're going to be covering is the forward direction. And with the forward direction, it moves you, well, forward. And as you can see in this example, this is the exact same conundrum that we ran into with moving backwards. Just holding forwards and moving forwards is slow. It is absolutely painstakingly slow. And like many of you, might understand this, there's another way to move forwards, which is tapping forward. And by doing so, we cover more ground, more distance, and less time. So this is generally the preferred way of moving forward, which is by hitting forward. And you use this when you want to catch your opponent because, let's say for instance, they're backdashing. Well, then you have to catch up to them by pressing forward to dash into their range. So by holding forward, you can move forward and advance a little bit in ground. But if you want to advance more space, then you're going to have to hit forward in order to catch them if they're backdashing. One last note to make about moving forward, and then moving on, we're going to be moving on to the next one, is that if you look here in this example, once you've moved more than 5 spaces, moving 5 forward dash spaces or 5 backwards dash spaces, you will perform a automatic run. You will just automatically go into a run once there's enough space, and you will perform a running tackle on your opponent when there's 5 spaces between you and your opponent. Now, the last direction that we're going to be covering, or the last axis we're going to be covering, is the y-axis here. And this axis is generally used much less than the other 2 axes. And I'm going to be covering the jump mechanic in this game. It is a very awkward looking animation because you do this kind of stumpy little jump into the air, nothing floaty like some of the 2D fighting games where you get a lot of ground and you do a front flip or a back flip. No, in Tekken you get a normal human range jump. Well, this is useful because it allows you to get over low attacks, essentially not being hit by low attacks. If you see this example, this is, by the way, you're never going to really do this in an actual match on purpose. If you jump over your opponent's low attack, then you can evade it completely, you don't block it, and nothing happens. However, usually when you're jumping, you want to be pressing another attack button with it. And why is that important? Because you're still jumping, but you're also performing an attack out of the jump. And in doing so, you evade the low attack and you're able to hit your opponent at the same time. So you're doing a 2-for-1. In this example, you see Kazumi is able to jump over Asuka's low attack and also attack her at the same time. So this is the last axis that we're covering, which is the y-axis in terms of vertical space. And this, again, is useful to go over low attacks that might otherwise hit you. The last and final axis that we're going to be covering is the Z axis, which is moving into the foreground and moving into the background. And this is, I would say, really important in this game. This is what differentiates Tekken from all the other fighting games that are not 3D. This is the 3D aspect of the game. By sidestepping, by pressing up or by pressing down quickly, we're able to sidestep either into the background or the foreground. Well, I guess foreground, background. Either way, we are able to then relieve some pressures that we normally wouldn't be able to in just utilizing the X or Y dimensions of the game. For instance, if you look at this clip here, you see that we're trying to backdash Asuka's attack here with Kazumi, and we're still in block, we're still in block, we're still in block, and we'll most likely continually be in block with this attack sequence. But if we sidestep the second attack, oh, all of a sudden now, you see, we're no longer being attacked. The opponent misses. So by utilizing the 3D aspect of the game, we're able to create some space, relieve some pressure, become a harder to hit target now, all of a sudden. So this is why the Z dimension in this game is so important. It's absolutely crucial. It can make or break a lot of matches. Sometimes just sidestepping one attack and then hitting your opponent when they're vulnerable. And as you can see, what we did in the 2 dimensions when we backdashed to create space and then attack our opponent when they missed, we can do the exact same thing in 3D space. We're able to sidestep into either the background or the foreground, make the opponent miss, and then retaliate on them when they miss. And one other aspect, just like backdashing or forward dashing, is you can press up or down and hold it. And if you do that, what you do is essentially a side walk. And side walking is a form of sidestepping, but it takes you further. It allows you to continually move in that direction for as long as you hold it. And this is useful because you allow yourself, in some cases, to get around to your opponent's back. And by getting around to your opponent's back, it is where they are most vulnerable aside from being in the air and juggled. That's because when your opponent's back is to you, they cannot block successfully. It's going to take them a little bit of time to turn around and then block. So by side walking, in some cases, it will allow you to net yourself a big juggle attack or a combo attack. So in this example, you can see here on our right that Kazumi is able to walk around to Asuka's back and perform an attack. And this covers all the axes now. It covers the X, the Y, and the Z axis, and now we are done with movement. Well, this is the last section of this video, and I didn't want to just end it without giving some sort of way to practice this, or some way of solidifying these fundamentals and mechanics that we covered today with moving backwards, forwards, and sidestepping. So here I have some footage of me just practicing in practice mode, moving backwards, backdashing, moving forwards, forward dashing, sidestepping into the foreground, sidestepping into the background, side walking. I would implore you guys to do the same. Just, you don't need to spend too long doing this. I would say spend about 5 to 10 minutes if you're new to Tekken. Just start up the game, go into practice mode, and practice doing clean inputs for backdashing, moving backwards, forward dashing, move forwards, sidestep, sidestep again, move backwards, forwards. Notice that all of my inputs here, they're either forward, back, forward, back, upwards, downwards, up, up, or down, down. There are no dirty inputs in terms of there's no diagonals or unwanted inputs in here. They are everything that I want to do. In this second example here, I'll show. I start off doing some clean inputs, but then there are some dirty inputs in here. You'll notice that there's some up, up, back, or forward, forward, down, or when I try to sidestep into the background or sidestep into the foreground, I get a duck or a jump. You do not want this. You want to have as crisp movement as you possibly can. And this is because in actual matches, you don't want to accidentally jump when you don't mean to jump, and you don't want to crouch when you don't mean to crouch. So if you want to be sidestepping into the background, you don't want to perform a jump. And if you want to sidestep into the foreground, you don't want to, crouch by accident. And the same thing goes, with moving forwards and backwards. You don't want to accidentally jump or crouch, etc. So practice clean inputs. Just go into practice mode 5 to 10 minutes every day. Not too much time, just a little bit just to warm up. Backdashing, forward dashing, sidestepping, sidewalking. That's it. And with that, thank you for watching this video. If you really enjoyed this content, please go ahead, leave me a like or subscribe. And I would really enjoy it if you commented as well, just so I know you appreciated this work. I do put a lot of time into my videos. So with that, this is Peter, signing out. Take care.